So these are the India Responsible Tourism Awards for 2021-22, and I'll explain why they're in both years in a minute. But it's the Global Responsible Tourism Awards for 2021 that they are part of. And the way that works is that people can join from anywhere in the world. You can see there are 4 regions: Africa, India, Latin America, and then the rest of the world. I'm pretty confident that we will be launching separately in Europe next year and probably in China in 2023. So the aspiration is to create a genuinely global set of responsible tourism awards. And that is for 2 reasons. The first is that there is great responsible tourism practice now happening all around the world, and we ought to be recognizing that in the awards. And secondly, because as the booking.com's recent research shows, more and more consumers around the world are wanting to buy genuinely sustainable travel experiences, but they're struggling to find them. And one of the aspirations of the Responsible Tourism Awards has always been to raise consumer awareness and to enable those businesses and destinations which are doing most on responsibility to have a global audience. They really do need to be recognized, aside from all the other businesses who, whilst they might be talking about doing good things, actually aren't doing very much at all. So we're out there trying to identify through the awards the very best businesses, destinations, and organizations which are taking responsibility for making tourism more sustainable. So this year in the global awards, there are 6 categories. The first, as you might imagine, since we're in the middle of a climate crisis, is about decarbonizing travel and tourism. The second is about how businesses and destinations have tried to sustain employees and communities through the COVID pandemic. And if I could just emphasize what Manisha has said, we're extremely aware of how serious the COVID crisis still is in many places around the world. And I'm not at all sure that we won't see another wave in the UK. This COVID crisis is something we're going to have to learn to live with, I fear. So let me just add my thoughts alongside those of Manisha with all those who've lost loved ones through the COVID crisis. Then we wanted to look at those destinations, and this is the third one. There is definitely a destinations category, is for destinations who are trying to build back better after COVID. Where are people coming together to try and make tourism better in their part of the world post-COVID? The fourth is about increasing diversity in tourism and asking the fundamental question, how inclusive is our industry? And we're asking that both of who the industry is offering the tourism experience for, and also who is the tourism industry employing. And there's a whole series of groups of people who've not been involved very much in the mainstream of tourism. I'm thinking of people who are differently abled. I'm thinking of people who are perhaps extremely poor. I'm thinking of those in India who might be in the scheduled castes. I'm thinking of those who might be discriminated against elsewhere in the world because of their religion, their ethnic background, or whatever. There's a whole series of different groups of people around the world who've been largely excluded, both from employment in the industry and from enjoyment of it. And even within particular groups, if you think about those with disabilities, there's been quite a lot of emphasis around the world on enabling access for people who use a wheelchair, but very little emphasis on enabling access for the blind, the deaf, the sensory deprived, and a whole series of other people who carry major issues through their lives, but whom tourism simply ignores, both in terms of employing them and in providing a tourism experience for them. There are people in London, for example, who might live only 5 miles from the Thames, but who've still never seen the Thames. It's a matter of trying to open up access and include people in that experience of other parts of the world, even if that other part of the world is quite close to home. The fifth category this year is about reducing plastic waste. We've heard a lot about single-use plastic, but plastic's a bigger problem than just the single-use plastic. The whole question of how do we reduce the amount of plastic going to waste, and if it must go to waste, how are we perhaps recycling or upcycling it? In South Africa, for example, a very big use of waste plastic bags to make new plastic bags by weaving them together to make a more sustainable shopping basket. And then the sixth category is about growing the local economic benefit. And that's obviously about how you source more locally, how you increase the wages and the benefits going to the local community. And we've seen more and more evidence of that now in destinations around the world. Kumarakoram in India was one of the first to actually have it. It still has the best set of data from the survey that Rupesh and his colleagues undertook on the impact of tourism across a whole village. Nobody in the world has done it better than in India. And that's a point I wanted to make this morning, which is that India has had an incredible track record in developing responsible tourism. And that's both in the private sector and in the public sector. So just last year, we awarded Judges Awards to Joe's Dominic of Clean, Green, Healthy Hotels, Rupesh Kumar for the Responsible Tourism Mission. Both extraordinary proponents. We've only recognized 5 people internationally. 2 of them are from India, 3 are from Africa, 2 from South Africa and 1 from Kenya. So it's a really remarkable group of people who've contributed to the extent that they've been given a Judges Award. Now we're working still with Outlook India and with ICRT India to develop the awards in India. These are the India Awards, and you can see there the link where you can apply for the RT Awards in India. We had a panel session at WTM London in November with 3, interestingly, all female government officials about responsible tourism in India. It's the first time we've had an all-female government panel talking about responsible tourism, and I think India should recognize the strength of that. Another example, if you like, of global leadership from India. But India is, I think, at the moment, the leading country in the world, the leading nation in the world, in terms of responsible tourism. And that's relevant because in 2022, next year at WTM London in November 2022, we will be looking at 20 years of responsible tourism around the world. And India is going to focus in a very big way in that, both in terms of what state governments have done. Perhaps the union government will have its new sustainable tourism strategy by then, and that talks, at the moment, the draft talks explicitly about responsible tourism. We'll see what the final document looks like. But at the national, the union level in India and the states, seeing a lot of movement, but also in the businesses. And businesses from India have won both in the India Awards and in the Global Awards in the past. And I just wanted to share with you where we keep if I can just get the machine to behave properly, where we have put up all of the winners from India. So there's a web page here that we maintain, which is the RT Award winners for India. And what it shows, you've got the outstanding ones there, but Andaman and Nicobar Islands, Delhi, Goa, Gujarat, Himachal Pradesh, Ladakh, Karnataka, Kerala, obviously, all started in Kerala, Madhya Pradesh, Maharashtra, Odisha, Rajasthan, Sikkim, Tamil Nadu, Uttarakhand, and then the inbound operators from outside operating into India. And what you see there is an extraordinary number of winners of the Responsible Tourism Awards from across India over many, many years. And I don't think it'll be any different this year. It will still be a large number of Indian winners coming through. The only difference this year is that there's one set of nomination and entry papers. So you go onto the Global Hub and there's the address there, and you can enter for the India Responsible Tourism Awards. The people who win gold in those India Responsible Tourism Awards, which will be judged in September by a panel of judges from India, chaired by me. I chair all of the judges' panels to make sure that there's some consistency across the global awards, but the rest of the judges will all be from India. They will make their decisions about the gold winners and the other winners in each of those categories. The gold winners will immediately go through into the global awards. All the other winners will be announced at a presentation event in India in 2022. But the awards close for India and everywhere else in the world on August the 31st. So now is the time to do it. The awards close, as I've just said, on the 31st of August. You could go to the same website, and there's another way into it there at the bottom. It may be easier to remember, to enter or to nominate others who you think should win. And as I've said already, 2022 marks 20 years of responsible tourism across the world since we started with the Cape Town Declaration in 2002. And we must also remember that responsible tourism then went in 2002, it was in South Africa, the international conference alongside the World Summit on Sustainable Development in 2002. In 2008, the second international conference on responsible tourism in destinations took place in Kerala. Really, responsible tourism came to India in 2008. So although the notion of responsible tourism arrived later in India than elsewhere, I think it's worth noting that it accelerated much faster in India. And undoubtedly, at the moment, India is the leading country in the world in terms of responsible tourism. That's what I wanted to say this morning, Manisha. I don't know, there'll probably be some questions, but thank you for the opportunity to talk to you.